Religious institutions are meant to be at the service of humanity and God, but at the end of the day, these are run by humans, mortals capable of completely atrocious acts. These are the Vatican's 5 darkest secrets. Number 5. A castrato is a type of classical male singing voice produced by castration of the singer before puberty. The Catholic Church, in hopes of maintaining a child's voice unchanged into adulthood, would purposely castrate young children so that these could sing to the masses. The person you are now hearing in the background is not a child. His name was Alessandro Morecci, a grown adult from Italy, and the only ever recorded castrati. Number 4. Although reformers had many complaints about the Catholic Church of the 16th century, the practice of selling indulgences raised the most opposition. An indulgence was a payment to the Catholic Church that purchased an exemption from punishment from some types of sins. You could not get an indulgence to excuse murder, but you could get one to excuse many lesser sins, such as thinking lustfully about someone who was not your spouse. The customers for indulgences were Catholic believers who feared that if one of their sins went unnoticed or unconfessed, they would spend extra time in purgatory before reaching heaven, or worse, wind up in hell for failing to repent. Number 3. On March 13th of the year 2000, Pope John Paul II delivered a speech in which he repented for the errors of his church over the last 2,000 years. It's a historical fact that the Roman Catholic Church supplanted all civil authority of the European governments for exactly 1,260 years. The most common means of torture included burning, beating, and suffocating. The methods were extravagant and horrendous. The Church and its executioners studied, practiced, and mastered the art of torture. Here are a few of their inventions. The rack was a torture device often used by the Church in the Middle Ages as a quite effective way of confession extraction. Torturers would strap their victims across a board, bounding them by the ankles and wrists, and then turning 2 wheels on each in opposite direction of each other to the point where dislocation of every joint occurred. The heretic's fork was a simple yet effective instrument which consisted of 2 metal forks set one against the other. It was to be placed under the chin of the accused. One end resting just above the larynx and the other end above the trachea. Forks forced the subject of the torture to hold his head erect at all times in order to avoid pain. Since the instrument didn't target any vital organs, suffering could last for days without the danger of the victim's death. The heretic's fork was a favorite popular with the Spanish inquisitors. Judas' cradle. The victim was stripped, hoisted, and hung over this pointed pyramid with iron belts. Their legs were stretched out frontwards, or their ankles pulled down by weights. The tormentor would then drop the accused onto the pyramid, penetrating both orifices. With their muscles contracted, they were usually unable to relax and fall asleep. Number 2. This sort of countdown cannot exist without mentioning the Church's child abuse scandal. Cases of child abuse by Catholic priests, nuns, and members of religious orders in the 20th and 21st century has been widespread and has led to many allegations, investigations, trials, and convictions, as well as revelations about decades of attempts by the Church to cover up reported incidents. The abused include boys and girls, some as young as 3 years old, with the majority being between the ages of 11 and 14. The accusations began to receive isolated, sporadic publicity from the late 1980s. Many of these involved cases in which a figure was accused of decades of abuse. Such allegations were frequently made by adults or older youths years after the abuse occurred. Cases have also been brought against members of the Catholic hierarchy who covered up sex abuse allegations and moved abusive priests to other parishes, where abuse still continued. The affected were in the thousands. Number 1. The Inquisition happened for many decades, and its purpose was to destroy and suppress other faiths from ever emerging. History has recorded notable people who have died and been tortured, accused wrongly for reasons imposed by the Roman Catholic inquisitors. Actions that today's justice would find the punishments to be appalling and horrendous. Religion was a massive economy, and this exact inquisition was used by those in power to purposely accuse one another of heresy charges. Not only was this inquisition between the church and the people, this inquisition was used among members of the Catholic Church to kill one another in hopes of receiving positions of higher power. For more similar content, please subscribe to the channel. Add me on Facebook and Twitter with the tag GloomyHouse. There, I'll be able to answer all of your questions.